Here we are, Keith.
We are.
Hey, how you doing? Oh, look, we're behind a fire station here. This is kind of cool.
There we go, engine 9. Engine number 9.
Number 9, coming down the Austin line.
So today we are in a new walk zone for the podcast, but this is kind of my daily walk zone. This is Hyde Park in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, we're here on
We are
a
walking
beautiful morning.
An alley. Check this alley out. I love an alley.
This is a particularly good one with the flowers growing off to the side here. Lots of shade from the trees. Got birds chirping at us, which you will appreciate, no doubt.
I like how Ben acts like he doesn't like birds. I'm the only person who likes birds.
Well, I'm just not trying to make our podcast about birding.
I'm not the one who keeps bringing it up.
Okay, fair. So what are we talking about today, Keith?
What are we talking about?
You know, I guess one thing we could talk about is that we, at this point, have gone audio to video to audio to video in our podcasting, and we could explain that to our listeners.
Explain yourself.
We are embracing this new video technology, but we are not embracing it every time. So we are going to eventually shift over to where everything is on video, but for now, we are going back and forth to test the quality and see which one we prefer. But I think so far I'm liking the video.
I know you like the video. I enjoy elements of the video for sure, and I think it's fun putting it together. You know, as a filmmaker, it's image and sound go together, but it does add a little bit of pressure in my mind of wanting it to be as good as it can be, and knowing that this is kind of just like a little side action. It's hard to feel like we can fully commit to the kind of layered multimedia approach I would like to take if this were, you know, one of my films. So I have that in the back of my mind. I need to get over it.
So what you're saying, this is an issue of control. If we're shooting video, you want it to be, you want every frame to be precise. Is that what you mean?
I think it's an issue of expression, but control is always at play in everything I do.
Yeah.
It's a negotiation with control, internally and externally.
Yeah, you've said that before, and I like that because that is, it's not only, whoa, those squirrels.
Run, squirrel.
On your left.
You're listening to Dock Walks with Ben and Keith.
Spring is in the air.
Here, should we stay? Let me stay on your right. There we go. So
On your left. Spring is in the air here in Austin. We are walking in the alleys of Hyde Park, which is a great neighborhood north of the University of Texas. It's kind of a classic old neighborhood filled with little bungalows and craftsman houses built in the 40s through 60s.
Yep. And when I started in grad school, I lived just right around the corner from here, spent a lot of time up here, and I always associate this very strongly with the film school. So it's apropos that we're walking here.
So what does springtime in documentary filmmaking mean to you?
I think about South by Southwest,
Right.
honestly. And AFS's Doc Days, the Austin Film Society, hosts something called Doc Days, where they bring in films that usually premiered at Sundance but have yet to be released, and they bring in the directors to come and talk about them. So I'm excited for that. That's coming up. What about you? What does springtime mean for you, Keith?
Springtime. Well, I think about new beginnings, and I think about kind of an opening up. The flowers open up, the trees have new buds, and we're all coming out of our winter dormancy. In development terms, it's a great time to get to pitching before, you know, the black hole of summer drops down and nobody wants to hear your dumb ideas
The black hole of summer.
in pitch terms. It's a real dead spot.
It's true.
But yeah, spring to me is like an opportunity to express new ideas. So anyway, that's where my head is right now on springtime in doc filmmaking. I have a bunch of projects that I'd like to get some traction on. And so I'm balancing my time between focusing on production and edit on this murder mystery while also developing kind of a philosophical environmental film, developing a scripted animated series that I've been on for a few years with some great producers that feels like it's inching forward in kind of exciting ways. I have another all archival doc that focuses on international cinema.
That's great.
So that's kind of like, I've got a development slate.
Yeah, it sounds like you have many projects, which is enviable. That's really cool. My head's been kind of in thinking about new media, doing this podcast in particular and talking with somebody about doing a cooking show that will be in small segments that will be distributed mainly on YouTube. And then I've been trying for a long time now to make a documentary about the Onion, which we've talked about on other episodes.
What state is that in at this point?
We are talking to the new owners, and they are because they have just bought the Onion, they're in a period of growth, and they don't want to document this period yet. So they keep saying it's going to happen, but not yet, and not giving us an indication of when. So that one is kind of just indefinitely on hold, but we keep making inroads and meeting a lot of the alumni writers, the founders that created the voice of the Onion.
So is this film, you said it's about the history of the Onion.
Well, history and present day. I mean, it's basically what's happening right now with the Onion is such an exciting story. And also just politically, the Onion is more and more invaluable, it feels like. And they're doing really interesting things like trying to buy InfoWars from Alex Jones. And it's just, in my opinion, the perfect time to be following a modern day storyline while also telling the history of the Onion. So that's where we're at, and it's a little frustrating, but it's one of those projects that feels like it's going to happen at just the right time when it's meant to, and we just have to keep pushing. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. And do you see that as a feature or a series? What's the ideal home for that? Like, what's your vision for it?
My vision for it has changed over time because for a while I thought it could be a series based on the 35-year history. And like I said, you could really do a deep dive and spend time with the founders and go back and really dissect the articles. But now I think that a 90-minute or less feature that is just fast and furious and hilarious at every moment is probably more the way to go.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. Well, I do too. Do you have $2 million?
I mean, I'm good for 1% of that.
I'm going to hold you to that, Keith.
I'm a little worried about that. All right, so you started out talking about new media. Look, there's a hawk up there.
Ooh, here, let's get a shot of that. There we go.
You got it?
Yeah, got it.
You started out by talking about new media, which is a phrase I feel like we've heard thrown around for a long time now, but the media is constantly changing. Like, what else constitutes new media?
Basically, everybody is watching things on their phone, and that's only continuing to grow. I mean, I think
Put
there's
your phones down, people.
There's definitely a place for going to the movies and for watching TV shows, but I think that it's a smaller and smaller place, whereas, social media is just crowding out all the other competitors. And a statistic about that is that YouTube is on track right now to be worth $8 billion at the end of this year, which would be double what Disney is worth. So I'm thinking more and more about how do I take this love of documentary and translate that into some type of content that will be interesting to people who are consuming media that way.
Making something for YouTube. I mean, what we are doing right now,
Yep,
somebody is watching this on YouTube right now.
exactly.
And so we are contributing to those billions of dollars.
Yep.
At what point do some of those dollars come back to us?
Great question. And any advertisers out there who want to sponsor Doc Walks, you know where to find us. And that's sort of the culture that we're in right now, where if I were 20 years old, if I were in film school right now, I would be ecstatic about the state of the industry, because it is a creator's marketplace, as lame as that sounds. If you can basically have some type of following that you develop on your own, then you are in the driver's seat.
That is a provocative statement. You would be ecstatic about the state of the industry right now because it is a creator's
Yeah.
paradise.
Well, remember I said if I was 20.
Oh, you
So-
are 20.
I'm not 20, I'm 47. And so what I mean by that is if I was a young person with the enthusiasm and the energy and the focus that I had in my 20s for making documentaries, I would be ecstatic because I could shoot on my phone, I could edit on my phone, I could distribute on my phone, and all I had to do was have the idea and the focus to just pump out content, basically.
But why can't you do that as a 47-year-old?
Well, I could, but I feel like social media by and large is kind of a young person's language,
Okay.
and I haven't kept up with it very well.
Right. So it's a creator's paradise, but the reward in paradise isn't necessarily the same rewards we set out to gain access to when we started those many years ago.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's interesting to debate because I think it is the same. I think it's eyeballs. I think it's wanting to communicate something. I think it's the same artistic drive to create is there. I think just the format is different.
Well, and the language and the grammar, right? Like the
Yeah.
palette, the tools. And maybe I'm wrong, but when I started out, I was emulating and inspired by work that had been created generations before me.
Yep.
And I didn't feel like, and I still don't feel like I'm on the cutting edge of what's next necessarily,
Right.
but that I can take the inspiration and the language of the past and recontextualize it with some currency that allows me to have some place within the conversation, allows me to be expressive.
So what you're saying is like you were inspired by movies and you wanted to go make movies.
Exactly. And so to be a 20-year-old today in this paradise that you're talking about, I don't feel like I would feel that way. I feel like I would be even more frustrated than I am now that I was born too late for something. But that's probably a sucker's argument because you're right in that it comes down to artistic expression, the need to express something and the need to explore, kind of a maker's life.
Yeah, and I mean that's a really interesting point that we were inspired by a pre-existing thing that we wanted to then emulate, and I think you are onto something there because while we were using new technology to do it, like I loved Les Blank movies. He was going out and shooting on a 16mm camera. I was shooting on a DV camera that had just come out, but to me they were still like very similar. Those are, that's just a sort of change in the technological capabilities of the camera rather than me going out and starting a new genre, let's say.
Right.
Whereas like social media has really only been widely available for 10 years? And so the idea of what a successful influencer is not really set yet. So I think probably a lot of these people are emulating celebrities or other. I don't know if they're emulating filmmakers. I actually don't think they are.
I don't think they are. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is like when you say if I were to transport myself body switch style into the body of a 20-year-old,
Yeah.
I'd want to be making movies, and I'm not interested in being an influencer. Like even this, what we're doing, walking around a neighborhood
Yeah.
with 2 cameras up in the air,
Right.
chit-chatting about stuff.
Yeah.
It feels off. It does not feel like, this is not scratching the itch of creativity for me. And if anything, that's what, like we've talked about this before, some of my reticence to put a video framing on this is that visual language is the place that I express myself and play.
Right.
Versus this, which feels kind of like an opportunity for just like kicking it with a friend. It's like a mixture between a snapshot slice of life
Yep.
and like a sharing, a passing along of things that have started before me and are passing through me to whoever's next.
Right.
And I don't equate that as cinema.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say this is cinema by any means. I mean, I think this is in the tradition of where we are right now, which is like everybody's expected to broadcast their lives. And, you know, I am taking this thing from my life that I enjoy, which are walks with you,
Yeah.
and choosing to figure out a way to broadcast that and thinking that that might have some value for people in the same way that other podcasts do that. Or influencers do that online. And I think really more the desire to like be a broadcaster is maybe the overwhelming sentiment behind a lot of social media rather than be a filmmaker. You know, like people are more interested in like telling you their thoughts than they are like shaping and crafting and delivering like an artistic narrative.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, that does make sense. And I like to equate it to some real old media. Like if we were writers, this is like a weekly column
Right.
where we complain about what's wrong and point people towards, you know, what we like and, you know, kind of make some dumb jokes along the way.
Yeah.
Versus like writing like a great short story or a novella. And so to me, that's why I like this conversation about what 20-year-old version of you would make of this moment is interesting to me. It's exciting because I haven't really thought about it in those terms. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks about like my high school and college friends, and we made kind of like silly videos together that nobody ever saw, that we would show in my friend's living room, you know, that I would edit by hooking 2 VCRs up together. But
Right.
mostly we're in-camera edits.
Right.
And we're really insubstantial, had no pressure on them to be any good, and they weren't any good.
Right.
But they scratched a creative itch and urge for our entire group. But if I was 20 years old today and I had the full production capabilities and the distribution capabilities, I don't think I would be looking to be an influencer, but I wonder what those funny little videos we made would be like.
Yeah,
And,
that's a good point. The sort of pressure to make something substantial is an interesting point about that, because similarly, when I was first playing in bands, for example, I played drums in a lot of really bad rock bands that nobody's heard of, and I had a blast. And it was me and my friends, and we were being creative, and we would make our own logos and merch and songs and record covers and play these like house party shows. And it was so much fun. And I think back so fondly about those days because there was never the expectation that we were gonna get signed or be like an important band.
Yeah.
And it was very freeing in that way. And I think that the idea of needing to have followers and wanting to have like the most amount of social media presence robs people of that, you know, and especially young people making stupid videos like you're talking about, or being in bad bands like I'm talking about. I wonder if they have that same freedom. But then on the flip side of that, when I started making documentaries and music videos for my friends' bands, I wanted as many people as possible to see them.
Okay.
And I would take the VHS tapes of like a band in Lawrence, Kansas, where I went to undergrad. I would take them to like the PBS station, and I was desperate for anybody, anywhere to show my work. And so, and same thing with the first short documentaries that I made. Like getting into any film festival was humongous because it was a chance to watch it with an audience and to feel validated. And that is basically lifted at this point because you can put it online and you're validated by the number of people who watch something that you make. Right. So I think in that way, when I say like I would be ecstatic, that's what I mean, is that you don't have those same barriers to an audience that we had when we were first coming up. But I don't think people, or at least I don't think I have understood until very recently, the domination of the entertainment industry that YouTube represents. Like it is a complete and utter paradigm shift from anything that we grew up with.
Right. Let me drop something into the conversation that's I think speaks to that from an inside the industry little bit of intel, which is that there's an exec I was working with last fall. We had a development deal with a pretty great company, and that great company, surprising to me, I guess probably not surprising to people who pay closer attention, tightened their belts right before Christmas and laid off most of their execs, including the one I was working with. And I called him and I asked him what he had planned, next, what he thought he would do in response. And that's when he let me know he saw the industry changing in one very significant way, and that major studios were reacting to YouTube in a whole new way, in a way that I don't think has been made that public, in a way that I hadn't heard elsewhere, but makes sense, which is that YouTube is going to be rolling out an all new interface for television. Mm-hmm. So I access YouTube via Roku.
Yep.
And sometimes I play it from my phone to the TV, but I watch a lot of YouTube on TV. And primarily what I'm watching is...
You're watching it through the app, which kind of looks like a desktop or something.
It's very similar to the desktop setting. Yeah. And I'm mostly watching live music, a little bit of clips and trailers from movies. Lately, with my 9-year-old son, we've been watching a lot of magic tricks.
Awesome.
But anyway, my friend, the exec, was telling me YouTube is going to be rolling out this whole new interface, which doesn't feel like the desktop app.
Yeah.
Which feels much more in line with TV that we grew up with.
Right.
And so they're encouraging content providers to make more TV-like fare.
Right.
Serialized, ongoing, dramatic additions to the YouTube lineup. And to that end, my friend the exec was telling me that major studios are formulating whole new departments just to create material for this new, user marketplace.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody smarter than me could make the argument that, this is how media always works. And the advent of radio, was like this, where there was a lot of people who had their own radio stations, and then suddenly, towers and stations came along and sort of standardized the approach, and then that became radio as we know it, and then TV came along, or the movies came along, and then they, surpassed radio, and this is silence, and then talkies, and then into color. And Richard Linklater, one of Austin's patron saints of filmmaking,
whose house we just walked past, made this really interesting point that film has basically been dying since it was born. Like, it's always going through rebirths and periods of extreme transition. VHS was supposed to come along and kill the theater going experience, and that didn't happen. And then TV was supposed to do the same thing. It did kill Betamax, that's true. But the point being that this is just another iteration of people's need for stories, which I do agree with. I think that the idea that people learn from narrative and understand themselves in the world through interpreting stories is true. That's just how humans work. We are sort of pattern-making story machines, and we need those in our lives in all different forms. And I think this is just another way of delivering that. The big wrinkle to that is that most of the way that young people
are using social media does not necessarily fit with that idea. You know, like Mr. Beast, who is arguably the most influential YouTube creator right now, does these really high profile stunts in what are essentially like these host driven kind of, 10-minute or less videos, and they get watched by hundreds of millions of people, like more people than live in the United States. Like, he gets 500 million views or something like that, which is just mind breaking to consider. But people aren't necessarily, it doesn't have the same like narrative arc that we're talking about.
Well, that's what I want to get back to in my assessment of this next chapter, which may be right. I feel like figuring out narrative nonfiction in this new media landscape is the challenge that's before us.
Absolutely.
Because neither of us are a 20-year-old entering the influencer paradise.
Right.
I don't want to be, but I do want to continue to work. And I do want to engage with audiences. Because even though finding audiences wasn't important to me for my high school films, my high school band, to a degree even this podcast,
right,
finding and connecting with audiences on my creative storytelling and on the ability to relate narratively to an audience, to bring a humanistic approach to storytelling into, if it has to be YouTube, it can be YouTube. If it has to be, floating holograms, I'm game for that in 10 years or less.
Funny you mentioned that.
Uh-oh.
Somebody, what do we, here, I have something to say about holograms, but what are we doing here first?
I just wanted to pause for 1 second and say, I would like us, and I feel bad I was doing it kind of, you were making a good point, and I was stupidly I couldn't stop the embrace of those flowers. I want us to capture a little bit of springtime beauty, because it's only going to exist for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And when we say spring is in the air, it'd be nice to cut to a little montage.
Totally.
So I was just going to say, I figured we're heading back now.
Yeah, let's head back.
And so as long as one of us is doing a good job on faces, like we can each take turns getting some more POVs, and getting some spring montage pieces.
Great.
And I also just wanted to hang here in the shade for 1 second.
And catch our breath.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to get these flowers right here, these red flowers.
Okay.
But, floating holograms.
Floating holograms.
You said floating, I said floating holograms. You said, speaking of that, I said, uh-oh.
Yeah, so I was on a call with a casting director who I've worked with over the years, and he has a new venture where brands can go to him and they can access a database of actors all over the world who they can then write scripts for to perform essentially a commercial, but to their phones. And it's a lot like remote casting, but it gives the agency the ability and the director to direct these folks very specifically. And it looks like user-generated content, like something that would be like an Instagram reel or a TikTok video, but it's being used by PepsiCo or whoever. And so he was sort of giving me a demonstration of this new technology, and he said that for many years, studios have been taking their content and developing holograms of actors and basically banking them to be used down the road in some way.
Oof.
So AI is going to sort of birth holograms, and we are suddenly going to be living in this kind of wild world where we're seeing more and more of those.
Okay. Progress. Not for the faint of heart.
Right. So with that in mind, doing things like making a 90-minute feature documentary that people have to go sit in a movie theater to see, feels very not current. And I'm somebody, look, I read books all the time. I'm an avid reader. I love to sit and read, but I realize that most people don't, and that's not a way that people access information much anymore. And so I don't think that it's not valid to make feature films. I mean, that's what I fell in love with. That's why I wanted to do this in the first place. But I do think that finding financing for them is only going to be harder, and that the budgets are only going to keep shrinking.
Right. Well,
So besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, what do you think of the play?
you know, you're an avid reader. We started our walk this morning in front of First Light Books, a brand new bookstore here in Austin, opened just over a year.
Yep.
A friend of yours opened the place, and
Yep.
your first thought was,
Taylor Bruce. And
how are you going to survive?
And I said, why would you open a bookstore?
And yet, that place was bustling,
Yep.
hustling and bustling. And I will also say, you know, my pal works at Waterloo Records. There has been such a growth in the world of vinyl
Yep.
that's obvious over the last couple of years, right? Vinyl sold as many units 2 years ago as it did in 1988, or there's some language around that. But what happened to vinyl? It got replaced by CDs. The other day, I overheard a couple 22-year-olds say, I'm getting into CDs.
Oh, man.
And it's like, oh yeah, CDs are great. So we may be dinosaurs who want to like hold on to the theater experience, but
there are other dinosaurs out there?
I think there's just enough dinosaurs out there to keep our new media concerns at bay.
Yep.
For you at the
Well, and that's
old
true.
age of 47, and me at the young age of 49.
And and people, you know, being an author is still a career, and people still get paid to write books. It's just fewer people than, you know, 20 years
less
ago.
money.
And less money. And so, you know, I'm not saying that it's going to go away entirely, but it being part of like the national conversation is shifting away. And I'm not even saying that I need to be part of a national conversation. I'm just more interested in, you know, if you start with this premise of people need stories, and the way that people are consuming media is on their phones, how can you tell those stories on phones? And I think something like Quibi, which was the short form content producer,
The short-lived.
very short-lived. It launched basically the same month as COVID, unfortunately. And I think that is going to look in 10 years like something like an idea that was just ahead of its time.
Just a little too early.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I met with Quibi when they first came down the pipe.
Yeah.
They have a piece of interface technology that blew me away.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about this.
Changed the way that I saw looking at
it could
movies
go-
and TV on your phone.
You could go vertical to horizontal, was that the?
Yeah, the way it worked is you're holding the phone in your hand, and what they did is they commissioned a little study to say, do people prefer to hold their phone horizontal or vertical? And what they discovered is that people like both. Your wrist gets tired. If you're holding it horizontal for a while, you're going to switch to vertical. If you're holding it vertical a while, eventually you go horizontal.
Interesting.
Right? And so what they created, and I would say perfected, was a system that as you turned your phone from horizontal to vertical, the image switched, and what was a horizontal image became two stacked vertical images, filling the frame. No letterbox, no pillar box, just full frame imagery. And what was kind of amazing about it was you were becoming a de facto editor. So as you turned your hand,
Right.
you got to choose from a single perspective shot to a double perspective shot. Not that different than what we're doing here.
Right.
For people watching the video, where sometimes it's a single shot and sometimes you're getting both of us at the same time. But with Quibi, you got to become the storyteller through that narrow window. And I have to tell you, like, it was a really powerful experience seeing that. I mean, it's easy to be cynical about that as a creator and someone who is interested in control.
Right.
Like, giving up and ceding control to the audience in that moment
Right.
seems like it would kind of cut against the grain for me, but it didn't. It really kind of inspired a different view and made me know, like, if I'm shooting verite, having multicam up and running, knowing that you're going to want to make use of that other camera through this portal, And if you're shooting narrative, or you're taking a more creative approach to nonfiction, you can offer secret other worlds through that second window. You could be on a character and in their mind at the same time, and it's up to the user in a choose your own adventure kind of approach.
Yeah.
And so I have to tell you, when Quibi went under so quickly and dramatically, I really thought we're going to see them license this technology
Yeah.
to Hulu, to Amazon. Maybe it'll become ubiquitous,
Right.
like Kleenex, and we'll still call it, the Quibi effect.
Yeah.
Like the Ken Burns effect.
Right.
But I haven't seen it anywhere else, and so I don't know if they're holding that piece of code close hold, or if I'm just not engaged in the marketplace of distribution ideas enough. But I have to say, I think you're right. They were ahead of their time. They burned a bunch of money on some high dollar creatives, and a lot of material that was created for it went unseen. And I don't have an opinion or much insight into that, but I was excited about that interface, and I'd love to explore playing with that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you're a new media enthusiast,
I'm enthused.
Keith.
I'm caffeinated, which translates
Into enthusiasm. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we're nearing the end of our walk.
We're back in the alley.
We're back in the alley
So-
by First Light Books.
What did you think about this Hyde Park walk? I do this walk without cameras, without you, several days a week. This is the neighborhood
Wait,
I
you
walk.
walk without me?
I walk with Andrew Bench. I walk with Sally O'Grady. I walk with Andrew Bujalski.
I love all those people, but I hate you for walking without me. I feel so cheated upon. But I have to say, I also walk and talk with other people.
You talk?
How dare you?
Keep it quiet over there, Steinbauer. All right. So, what did you think about Hyde Park?
I love it. This has been a blast. I think we should do this more. I love getting coffee at First Light, walking down the alleyways, and just seeing sort of the beauty and the sort of mystery of Hyde Park. I'm a fan. There we go. Next time on Dock Walks,
Who will it be?
we are going to talk to Kahani Korn Cooperman.
That's right. Kahani Korn Cooperman with her world premiere documentary, Creed USA, here at South by Southwest.
Which I, for one, cannot wait to see. She's been involved in two of my all-time favorite projects. She shot the behind-the-scenes film of Dazed and Confused.
We're going to talk all about that.
And she was the executive producer of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
We're going to talk about that too. But we're also going to talk about Creed USA, and I think you guys are going to love her. She's just a blast to talk to and to walk with.
So stay tuned for that, everybody.
See you there. Dock Walks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at Dock Walks Pod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.